Welcome everyone to day 3 of LibreFest 2024. The first 2 days of this conference focused on ADAPT, the basic principles and some of the more advanced principles behind that. The next 2 days are focusing predominantly on the textbooks that are hosted in our libraries. Today we're going to be addressing remixing, that is to be able and ancillary technologies around remixing, which Josh will be addressing. I'll come in later on in the afternoon or in the late morning, my time, in order to talk about remixing in more detail. And then we'll have the breakout rooms connected to allowing you to be able to create new textbooks using this large corpus of questions over here. So Josh Halpern is the Chief Operating Officer of LibreTexts, and generally responds to everything that you may, if you submit questions or responses, he's one of the people that really responds to it faster than I do. So with that, I'll hand it off to Josh and let him work his magic.
Good morning from Washington, D.C. LibreTexts is not only a community, we're a virtual community. I'm going to talk to you about the development of the tools box we have built for you to create the books that meet your curriculum and your students. I'm not watching the chat on this part, so just break in and say something if you want. Well, I'm going to start by telling you about EdTech tools. The oldest EdTech tools is recitation from memory. And writing on walls, which still exists today in certain physics departments, that's also the second oldest. And textbooks are the third. The first textbooks we know about goes back 5,000 years. And then with the invention of movable type in China in the 14th century and coming to the West in the 15th, printing exploded. But OER, I'm going to try and convince you, is the newest and best, especially with the tools that LibreTexts provides to you. Now, we talked a little bit about copyright, and this actually goes into what I'm going to talk about later. But if people are just writing things by hand, they're copying by hand, you don't need copyright. But mechanical printing makes a difference. And copyright came in to protect the right of creators, but increasingly in the market economy, think Walt Disney, they protect commercial rights. But there are exceptions. There's a wonderful paragraph in a law book by Pierre Laval about copyright is not inevitable, divine, or a natural right that confers absolute ownership. It's designed to stimulate activity and progress, and that's exactly what Creative Commons does. This has actually been incorporated into a court decision in India. Talk about that later if anybody's interested. LibreTexts started in 2008 with Delmar and a single book. Delmar is our Linus Torvald, if you wish. And it wasn't clear it was going to succeed, but a lot of work by Delmar, the rest of us, has really, I think, brought us to a takeoff point today. So let me frame this talk in 2 questions. Why are textbooks so important? And what determines textbook choice? The answer to these is not obvious. In the EdTech game, we have 4 players: the professors, the students, the deans, or the presidents, and the publishers. And now we have OER. And I'm going to try and convince you that it's actually easy to use OER with the LibreTexts toolbox. So we start from a just very short discussion about educational materials. And the primary thing to realize here is this is a business-to-business market with a twist. The source are publishers. We could add LibreTexts in there as OER publishers. But the prescribers are physicians and faculty. And there are associated intermediaries who actually take in the money and share it out from the buyers, the students, and the patients. So like pharmaceuticals, the person who chooses the tool does not pay for them. what drives textbook orders? There's surveys on this that show. It said primarily ancillary services offered to faculty. Desk copies, online homework, test banks, solution manuals, presentation packs, charts, graphs, maps, publishers' representatives, people telling you about how wonderful their book or homework is. That's what we're doing here. So we talked yesterday and the day before about ADAPT, which are primarily in these three areas. We're going to touch on this briefly and also some of the rest of this. Cost is secondary to the person who prescribes. Your physician really doesn't pay attention to the cost of your medicine to you. And that explains why the cost of textbooks went out like a rocket, along with things like hospital services and pharmaceuticals. But something happened around 2016. It's been essentially flat now. What happened is students stopped purchasing. They started using the internet to gain access to the material. They take fewer courses because it's so important. They didn't register. The Florida Virtual Campus does a survey every couple of years. It's really one of the two great sources of information on OER. So what happened? Well, the students stopped using the campus bookstore and went to online sources, which got them less expensively, often by bringing in from outside the US and Canada. They started renting digital textbooks, buying used copies. There are lots of people making a business selling the used copies, renting the printed textbooks, and so forth. Okay. And of course, getting them online. And OER happened. And after about 2015, 2016, there were lots of examples you could find in the literature that OER works at least as well as printed textbooks. And even there, they didn't control from the fact that students were getting the books off the internet as PDFs. But in this one survey from Sacramento City College, one of the LibreTexts network members, shows that it makes an enormous difference for underrepresented groups. Okay. So how do the publishers coping? Well, they're substituting online homework for textbooks. They're not printing as much, and they're renting things online. And they've gone to a system called inclusive access, which I'm sure you're familiar with. Textbook rentals are pernicious, in my view, because students rent the textbook for the semester, and then they give back the license or give back the physical book, and they don't have it to study from for the succeeding course, for their MCATs, for whatever. Inclusive access is more subtle. Inclusive access restricts faculty choice of educational materials and is an administrative effort. So that has some implications that haven't been much discussed. What do faculty do when they teach with their textbook? I have some textbooks over here. My textbook, which I took in 1962, weighs about half a kilo. That's a pound to normal people. The textbook that I taught from when I was teaching, I'm retired now, weighs about 5 pounds. You can't bring a 5-pound textbook to class if you've got 3 other classes. You'll develop very good muscles. So what do people do? Why is it like this? It's like this because the publishers have to put absolutely everything in the textbook to sell the book to people who want a particular chapter. So what do? You skip sections of the textbook, you teach in different order, you replace some content with your own material, et cetera, et cetera. And I'll tell you something, because I've asked. Students hate all of these. The advantage of building your own textbook is you can make the textbook match the curriculum that you are teaching. This is another group that does wonderful survey work. They used to be Babson, but now they're Bayshore. And it's a place, if you want to learn about how OER is being brought into the teaching, their series is really the place to go. Okay. So at LibreTexts, at least for me, the goal is new curricula, better curricula, and OER and LibreTexts are the tools. But there are advantages. There are interesting advantages. This is a chemistry book that I wrote with colleagues at Prince George's Community College. And over the years, it's had over 700,000 page views. This builds institutional brands, both internally. Hey, we're using Professor X's textbook in the class next year. If it's a good textbook, of course, and you can only write good textbooks with LibreTexts. Externally, I'm interested in going to school. Let's take a look at what they're teaching from. People do this. OER content shared with colleagues establishes reputation of the school and the author. And it speaks effectively to broader impacts if you need, when you're doing your yearly evaluations, if you're writing a grant and you're talking about broader impacts. And this has to be taken into account. Right now, this book is running about 800 page views per day. Okay, so we went by the handpipe. We went by the golden handcuffs. Delmar talked about this. Yeah, OER breaks the golden handcuffs of textbooks. But what are the barriers? Not enough resources for my subject, too hard to find, no comprehensive catalog, need an online homework system and other support. But LibreTexts right now, we have enough resources for almost any undergraduate first 2-year course. You can actually remix to match anything that you need, and it's not too hard to find. Okay. What do faculty want? They want online homework systems and textbooks, and integrating video and software and calculators and data sets and things like this. All of these things are available within the LibreTexts system. So this is a view that we use a lot. Surrounding the libraries are a bunch of systems that support it. One can argue that at this point, ADAPT and the H5P Studio with their analytics will become as important, if not more important, than the libraries. But each of these things can be integrated into the libraries. And we have tools for finding, tools for building, and tools for curating. And then coming soon, we have a system that you can run on your own servers that will at least give a accessible, in the sense of it, accessible is used often. We use often accessible to say, okay, this system allows us to give the content to people with physical or thinking issues, handicaps. But accessible also means you have to be able to reach the material. And I think that's very important. And Nova will help with that in remote locations. So let's talk about your LibreVerse. Right now, we talked about ADAPT. The Commons is basically the library catalog. The conductor manages your program for you, both before you start, when you're building the book, and afterwards. That's very important. It's a cradle to grave, system for managing your content. Jupyter Hub allows you to do computation within the system. That's not just for STEM. Lots of people need, we have R, lots of people use statistics in various social science fields and elsewhere. Nova is coming, talked about Studio, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the support center here, which is part of the conductor, and we have our libraries. Okay. This is just a brief layout of our timeline. It started with one book. Delmar was told by a student that he could build a book using this new internet thing, and so he did. And then somebody said, hey, that's a good idea. And more people said, that's good. And that's good. And then we began to get inquiries from social sciences, humanities. We got a Department of Education grant that said, you guys should really have some stuff on workforce training. And around 2022, 23, we started getting involved with machine translation, and we've established Spanish, Ukrainian libraries of our complete bookshelves and a global library with about 50 books each in the general major languages like Chinese and Hindi and so forth. Okay. So let's move on to talking about how LibreTexts grew. We started in the cut and paste era, working directly in HTML, using the anonymous large bucket books and our own materials. And then about 2018, I can actually tell you the date, it was in October of 2018 at OpenEd, we announced the first version of the remixer. And that worked pretty well, but we had the problem that we had libraries and people were working directly in the libraries, even with permissions. It got out of hand. So we established sandboxes where associated with every account was an area where you could work. But we have thousands and thousands of people with instructor accounts. So we've gone over now to what we call the workbench system, where everybody has access to rent space on the workbench in the library they're working on, builds their books, and then cleans up after themselves, and we publish the book for them. We've brought in Adapt. Adapt has its roots back in about 2022. It's really only gone out of beta somewheres around the beginning of this year. We brought in Studio for building H5P questions. We've set up a single sign-on, and now we have the conductor for managing the system. So I'm going to start at a place where we don't much go. I'm going to start with the student view. So hopefully I can get here. So the question is, if you have, because I'm starting with the student view because I think understanding what the students see helps you when you build your book. Okay. So where do you go first? Well, one place you can go to is LibreTexts.org. And you can go to the library or Adapt or the Commons and Conductor or the Studio. You can look at all these things. If you go to a library, you see something like this. You might see, and I'm going to come over here because this is a little more efficient. So let's say you were at Chabot College, and that's the book you need, and then you can go to the chapter that you want. Okay. I'm going to come over here to a page in a book, and I want to show you some other features that are available to you and your students. You can change the size of the text. You can go to dark mode. You can also change the margin size. Sometimes on narrow screens, like on a telephone, a cell phone, that's useful. Okay. You have some resources you can use. You have a scientific calculator. You have access to the physical contents. Now, I'm in an engineering library here. One thing we could really use your help on is what should we put as resources for different fields like psychology or history or whatever that students should be able to access online. Okay. We have some tools. We generate page citations. They're generally pretty sparse. We're working on that as we build out the meta information on things. That'll get better. You can get an attribution. For your students, of course, my mom had trouble with the video recorder we bought her in the 80s. And we were too far away, and she was calling every day, and it was not good. And the question was, what should she do? And we said, get a kid. So she did. And she traded reading stories to him for him programming. So if you need some help, oops. Well, let me, hopefully. You can get the HTML for the page, and somebody who's more, let's say, more agile. Let me get back to that page that I was on. Let's see, bookshelves, engineering. Let's come back here. Let's see. That was one of the pages I was on. Okay. You can see here that we have the Jupyter here. So we could run this. It takes a little time to load up, so I'm not going to do it. And one of the reasons I came to this book is that this is not true of all of our books. It's something you can think about. You can, as you work, takes a minute to load up. You can create an index by entering meta tags into the page settings and build an index. This index, as you notice, is created when you access the index page. And the table of contents the reason it waits there is it's actually loading the information. These are made from the title of the chapters and the pages under them. So if you change something in a book, the table of contents and the index will update automatically. This is not true of the PDFs. They have to be compiled. And of course, we have a rollover glossary. And a set of detailed licensing. Okay, so you saw this yesterday. This is created for every book. Okay, now one more thing. This is kind of the old clunky book view. Okay, but we have a reader mode. This is accessible to you and your students. Kind of a more open view. It has a toolbar, and we exit the reader. Okay. So we have here, this is science-oriented. This is a page in a composition book. This is the one I showed you first is from our curated area. This is from a campus book from Harrisburg Area Community College. Now they changed the name to Hack. And I don't know, is Karen here? No. Okay. So we've got that. Okay, so we've looked at the student view. Let's look at the instructor view. Well, when you come in and you sign, I've signed in now as the demo account, and you can see the various places I can go. If I go to the conductor page, it takes me to my home page. I have created one project. There are actually some others that have been edited on this account. I could go there, or I could go here to here's the principles. I can take various actions. I can edit the properties. I can manage my team if I'm the lead. If I'm not the lead, I can't. I can set up a timeline. There's a place here where peer reviews can be accepted and configured. And there's some more tools. The most important one is this one over on the right. This is the place to go to the remixer for this book. Okay, so let's take it from the top and let's create a conductor project. One click. So the title is going to be How to Build a Project. And I don't want to make it public for other instructors. This is public in the sense that other people with an instructor's account can see it, but I can make it private so only people who are on the team can see it. That's the general default. Now, you'd like to build a book, right? How many clicks do you think it takes to build a book? One. But the one touchy thing is, where do I put it? And this is something you can't change. So I'm going to just put it into, for arbitrary sake, I'll put it into business. This is creating an empty book. Depending on the time of day and how many other people are working, it can take a different amount of time to load up. This is longer than usual. Okay. There we go. Now this textbook link button has changed color and changed language, but let's go look at the textbook that has been built. It's pretty empty. It has basically just a single chapter in it, front matter, back matter. Okay. Delmar is going to talk about how to use the remixer to build this out. But for now, let's see, buttons we need. We'll get to all these tomorrow. That's the title of the book. By the way, if you want to change the title, just click there and you can change the title. Okay. So here we are. We're going to manage the team. So we're going to add users outside of LibreTexts. Let's see if I can find somebody. A lot of Rachel's. Okay. Sometimes this is a little bit choosy. There you are. So Rachel Fleming, who's listening, will become a member of the team. And she'll get an email saying, you have been chosen. Now, while we're waiting for that to complete, there she is. So she's a member of the team, and you can make her the team lead, and you can make demo, say, the project liaison. Okay. Now, before we go any further, I'd like to show you the most important button on this system. Just a little question mark back down here. If you have a problem, just hit the question mark. You can contact support. You can put, if you're registered, you can put in the subject, the category, the priority, the description, and so forth, and attachments. You can look at any of your tickets. You don't have any tickets yet. Let's see. Trying to move this down and not having a great deal of success. There we are. Okay, so subject, category, feature request, priority is low. By the way, please include the URL of where the problem is. So vitally important. Oops. Okay, and you can have attachments and whatever and submit it. And my ticket should show up there, but okay. Okay, so we're there. And let's come back here. You can search the knowledge base if you have some questions. These are some, basically some presentations that have been entered. We have a couple of videos here already. This will expand with time. If something's not working, you should be able to take a quick look and see if it's down and somebody has to be notified to bring it back up. Okay. So that is the question mark, the most important button. The one button that rules them all. Edit properties, it turns out, is not so important. You can put various things as markers to team members and others. You can basically change what's displayed. Okay. Team we went over. You can build a timeline, and the timeline is built using the task button. So you can add a task. And we'll start from today, and we'll end tomorrow. Add the task. We can display this as a timeline, as a Gantt chart. If you're an engineer, you know what that is, or as a calendar view. So this way, everybody can view the task, who's doing this, when is it due, its status is available, it's in progress, and so forth. You can send a message from here to to the entire team, specific people. For a big project, this is really a good thing to do. We use it for organizing things such as this virtual set of talks. Okay, we have discussion where messages can be sent. The one picky thing about this is to actually send the message, you have to select the thread or create a thread. And I said more tools. If this is a really important project and you want it to display first on your project view, you can flag the project. You can flag it to the campus administrators. Okay. Okay. And the next half hour or hour, we're going to talk about the OER Remixer. Show you a couple of other features. You can set up you can invite people to give peer reviews. You can set peer reviews. We have, what now, 4 rubrics for peer reviews. You can choose the one that you want. Okay, so okay. You can play with that. Put in a new review. You can have a discussion around the peer review. What do you mean this is a lousy book? I built it. Accessibility has not been as thoroughly implemented as we might like. It's still all hand. You can sync it to your book. Well, it's not a complete book. Actually, let me go back. Let me log out here. Conductor. Let me it's a book I'm working on. I can go to accessibility. No, it's not behaving well today. Okay. Anyhow, these are all the things that need to be correct for accessibility. You can use them as a guide. You should be able to sync it to your library. Let me go to one more thing here. Okay. Discussion. Oh, this is very important. You can upload, you can create a new folder. Let's say, call this slide decks. And now you could upload a file. Let's move something over here. Okay, so where am I going to get it from? Okay, so now this can be publicly visible when somebody looks for the book on the Commons. This book hasn't been published yet. So you can make supplementary materials visible to everybody. You can create a file structure here. Okay. I think, let me go back to where I was, and I can go through here and okay. So we'll make these slides available to everybody. Okay, ready, create the book. This is touchy. Once you do this, you're locked in. Once you've selected the library. So again, here are all the things that we talked about. Support is very important. And that's the conductor features. Okay. So that's it. And I imagine I hope there are things in the chat. And why don't you just, why don't I stop sharing the screen? Are there questions? Is anybody there?
Sure. What's the title of your slide deck in
Well, I haven't put it up yet. It'll be up tomorrow.
Okay.
Or later today. Yeah.
What is the difference between sandbox and the workbench?
Between the what and the workbench?
Sandbox.
Oh, in the old system, everybody had a sandbox that was labeled by their email address. We had thousands of empty sandboxes. People did bring their pails and shovels. So we went to a system which we call the workbench, where I don't know if you've used for handwork, a lot of times carpentry and such, you can rent space on a workbench, do your work there, and then clean off. So the workbench space is only labeled by a book that has been created and has an associated project.
Josh, I have a question. In the teams where you have the different leads, you have a team lead, a team member, what are the permissions for the other ones where it's like liaison? Like what different permissions, or what's the difference between those different roles in the team?
Very little today. Project liaisons tend to be administrators, either campus administrators or system administrators. Team lead has certain privileges, like they can alter the team membership. So you can't add somebody to a team unless you're a team lead. It also should reflect back into permissions to actually edit the text, which I think Delmar will get into next hour. Okay?
Thank you.
Now, let me just throw something onto that. So auditors don't have editing rights. So they have the ability to view it, but they can't edit it. Any normal member has editing rights in the project, and any lead, as Josh mentioned, has the rights in order to handle who gets to be on the project and who doesn't get to be on the project. And then liaison is the same as a standard member. They just meant to separate them and such. So, yeah.
I have a question. Very naive question, maybe, because I tried to follow along and I created a conductor project for myself so I could learn. Is it correct to understand that the conductor project is more helpful if we have a team of people working and contributing to it? Or like if I just want to have a textbook for my class, that I am the only person teaching, what is the benefit of conductor project? I'm sure it is about it, but I missed it.
Yeah, the principal benefit is for after the book has been created to gather reports about peer review, to get accessibility, adoption reports and things like that. So and to be frank with you, it's also a very easy place to get to the textbook from. Today, I very seldom go directly to a textbook I'm working on, but I go to the project page and then I'm one click away rather than having to sort through a whole bunch of things. Let me, hang on a second. So, this is one of these things you're going to regret asking. I left out, and I'm going to take the screen again. The most important thing in building a textbook is to create a map of where things come from. This is something that Nautica had just created. I should have a textbook built from this. I can build a textbook in about an hour because I can see all the places I need to include in the remixer, which you'll see. Keep this in mind when you're looking at how Delmar builds the remixer. The other thing that's really important is you can deposit your PowerPoints here, and then it will show up on the Commons where other instructors, and when it shows up on the Commons, for example, you could make your PowerPoints visible only to other instructors or visible to students and everybody. That's a choice you can make. Let me see what I can do here. Yeah, okay. So the principal benefits of the conductor for single authors comes after the book is finished, when they can use it to communicate to users, when they can use it as a place to put supplementary materials, where they can gather reviews, the good ones to show to your dean, and so forth. And Delmar, perhaps you can help me here. In the new analytics system, authors will be able to see the analytics for their books on the conductor.
Yeah, there are going to be a few more additional components associated with that to complement what Josh mentioned. So we are transitioning away from Google Analytics in order to keep track of traffic. There are a variety of reasons why we are doing this. One is because many people are not comfortable with Google being able to track how people are accessing their pages anonymously, but still information on our side, at least. So we will be implementing probably in a couple months traffic analytics to your resource. So you create the resource and you want to know how many people have actually used your resource from a viewing perspective, how many pages on this day at this time, and you can get the growth. That was very similar to what Josh presented at the start of his presentation, but you're going to get real time, at least within 1 day, feedback directly on there. Complementing the traffic analytics will also be the learning analytics. So if you decide that you want to keep track of your class's activities on the book, you can use that as a mechanism in order to do so. And that's coupled into the analytics that I mentioned previously in regard to adapt. So it's basically analytics on the book, not just analytics on the adapt side. And then to complement what Josh, to reinforce what Josh mentioned in terms of accessibility. So the accessibility matrix, the ACL mini matrix that was put at the end there, is an overview of the review of accessibility that was done for that book. So it's probably the most detailed accessibility infrastructure available that people can use for the book. And that's going to be folded into the back of the book. So it's a mechanism in order to keep track of that. And one last thing, and I will promise to stop, is that the conductor page doesn't have to be just designed for generating textbooks. it can be used in order to build any sort of OER. So if you're actually building a question bank, you can use this to organize that process. If you're building ancillary materials, if you're building, if you're using it as a project page for a workshop, like what we're doing right now, you have the ability in order to do it. And we will be folding in the more expanded communities of practice into the conductor page here in order to facilitate better communication between different campuses and different faculty in the same field in order to be able to share best practices and things like that. So it is the starting point, and one could even argue the middle point and the ending point in terms of actually organizing and distributing your OER content, irrespective of whatever it happens to be. Now I will step away and let Josh continue.
Well, I don't think there's much to continue. We can
Thank you both. And
more
I
questions.
really like that LibreFest is being conducted on the conductor page so we can learn. And that's a very powerful tool, actually. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, you can organize your departmental meetings.
It is the only OER-focused project management tool that we're aware of right now. So,
Are there any more questions?
Yes, how we can remove something that is already on the project and done. So if I want to remove from the conductor page, how I can do that?
I'm sorry, the project is done.
Yes, so it is still listed on the conductor page. So
Okay,
can I remove
there
it?
is a button. Let me take the
just as a quick clarification, it's already published. Is that what you're asking, Mohammed? Or you?
For example, on my conductor page, the previous LibreFest is still showing.
Oh,
Yes.
okay. I think this is where Josh is going. Yeah.
yeah. Let me. Okay. So if you are the lead, again, the power of the lead, you can go to Edit Properties. You can go all the way to the bottom to the danger zone.
You're not sharing.
Oh, sorry.
I want to make a quick comment before. So what Josh is going to be showing is how you can delete a project that you have rights to delete. However, if you don't have rights to delete it, you have to, if you just want to be taken off of it.
Okay, you can basically, well,
they don't have, if you're not part of the project team, you don't have access to that screen that's on the thing there.
Right.
That's a really good question, and I don't think I have an answer other than contacting the lead of that team asking to be removed.
Yeah.
We should make that more automatic.
In any case, to remove a project, you just go to, if you're lead, you go to Edit Properties, Danger Zone, and delete the project. And I don't want to delete this, so I will assume that there's a nastygram that says, do you really want to do this? Okay. One other thing I think that would be useful here. If I look at this one, okay. I need one with a comment page. Okay, stop this sharing. Okay, there more questions?
Just a clarification. So basically each project would be a book. So if we're doing multiple books, we would have multiple projects, correct?
That's correct, except
Okay.
you can have projects that are not associated with books that are tasks like organizing a meeting.
And that would just be a separate project as well, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, I just this is Nadia, and sorry I've been in and out, so if you've already said this, I apologize. So the conductor, so if my goal right now is to take an already completed OER and then just kind of remix the order of chapters and things like that, am I using the conductor, or we're going to do what Delmar is going to show in terms of the OER mixer?
You will use the conductor to remix a book.
Okay.
So the place it starts is with the project. The project is remixing the book,
Gotcha.
and then you go on from there.
Okay.
And the reason is that the libraries exist kind of off by themselves. The conductor provides a path between the commons, the book, and interaction with readers.
Okay. So if I have, once I've created a remixed book that maybe I just want to use in my own class, I don't have to I just leave it in the conductor and give access to the students. I don't have to.
No.
Oh.
The book exists in the library.
Gotcha.
When it's on the workbench, nobody really has access to it except you and other members of your team. When you're ready to make it available to students and others, right now you send a message to us, and we go through a process we call compiling or publishing, which moves it into a campus bookshelf, which creates a full PDF of the book and moves it into our bookstore, online bookstore, moves it into its own Commons page.
Okay. Thank you so much.